is our second session on looking at the conscious care for our body. And last month we opened up this diagram where here we have a sense of well-being where you can, again, as a chiropractor, I recognize the alignment of the spine, the symmetry of, you can say, your leg lengths, even arm strength, even muscle tone on both sides. And then with my work with HeartMath, we recognize when our heart's beating in its right rhythms, it actually extends a field. And when that field is extending, that's whole, we have a sense of well-being. But when things come along like trauma or toxins or how we're thinking about things, we lose our resilience. You can say when we lose our resilience, that field that should be extending out from us collapses, and I call this the Raisen effect. It can affect our body in terms of causing muscle spasms, tightness on one side of the spine, causing one leg to be shorter, and our heart rhythms going off. And when that happens, it gives us a sense of unease, being in a dis-ease state. And we have thousands of diagnoses for dis-ease, but basically it's a state where there's a state of dis-ease. So we see, what does it take to have resilience, capacity, capability? And that's where even the way the world is today, with the toxins that it has, with the thoughts that are grooved into the whole human world there, trauma that may come along, how resilient are we? Like Ray, with Kim having surgery today, how resilient is she to heal as quick as possible? So that relates to seeing where we're at. And in today's world, most of us, need some work health-wise to see where we're at in terms of looking at blood, hair, urine, elements in our body that we can see to assess where we are health-wise, objectively. And then we want to see, once we have those assessments, what it takes for keeping our body in balance, what lifestyle choices that we talked about last month, and then natural support. But all along, it's like, why? Like, why do we want to be healthy? So to have that ingrained, like looking at our why, to help give us the leverage to make the right choices, to make us realize when we're going off, we're getting too amped, and to come back to that, and to see what natural supports could be helpful. So if we're generating something, we're extending something out. We're providing that sound, healthy influence. And to me, the essence of health really is extend that healthy influence. But if we're not generating that field, extending out, we're dissipating. And we can't be dissipating and generating at the same time. So it's a matter of looking to see what it takes to be constantly generating. So tonight, we're going to be looking at health assessments and natural support. So tonight's going to be a little bit different than usual, where we've been looking at more in terms of purpose, alignment with our purpose. So we're going to get a little more into, you can say, earthly details tonight in terms of assessments and natural support. So natural support, supplementation. Now, I think most of us may take supplements here, but just to consider supplementation, things we want to consider taking on a consistent basis are, for one, minerals. Now, minerals, you can say from plant, from vegetable, fruit sources, they provide elements for, you can say, the meridians or the energetic flows that flow actually all through the universe, so all through the cosmos, to have actually a receptive contact points within our human system. So if we don't have the minerals, then you can say those universal forces are kind of just deflected off of our system. So minerals are a key in that respect.
Wait. Did you say that minerals provide like the meridians for
minerals
energy?
They provide the conductive, you can say the receptive elements, Mary, the receptive elements for, you can say, the universal forces to find you can say their pathways through the body, especially through the meridian pattern.
Okay.
And other elements too, the endocrine system especially. Okay, is that clear? Is that helpful? Okay. Antioxidants, another thing to consider, another way the world is today, since it's such a toxic world. And when toxins are affecting our body, that causes our body to, say, scientifically, to oxidize. So when our paint fades in our car, it's oxidizing, and that's the same thing with our bodies. So antioxidants help at least slow down that. And the famous antioxidants that we know of are vitamin C, vitamin E. Now, the things that I recommend are things like curcumin, which is derived from turmeric, which is a great antioxidant, especially for the liver. Next is
I do have to say that my brother's turned me on to curcumin, and it's a life changer, and it helps everything in your body with inflammation. So just it really is amazing.
Yes, Joe. You know, my story, again, the reason why I got turned on to it, I couldn't work for a year and a half because having severe hip pain. And not until I found, I was having steroid shots under x-ray, but not until I found curcumin, that within 2 weeks, I was getting out of that chronic painful state there. So I agree, Joe. Essential fatty acids, omega-3s. Now, omega-3s, there's omega-6s, 9s, 3s, but omega-3s also relate to helping your brain stay healthy. And our brain is composed of fat, so omega-3s are helpful in that respect. And omega-3s can come from fish oil. Some people don't prefer fish oil, so it can come from actually algae-type derivatives. Drainage formulas, homeopathic forms, botanicals, enzymes. No drainage, because the world is toxic, things can build up in our system. So taking some kind of drainage formula on a daily basis can help keep, you can say, our liver draining properly or kidneys draining properly to actually get the toxins out of our system. Some people take, say, bromelain enzymes in the morning and at night to help clean our system up as we sleep and we wake up during the day. And then sun. Okay, sun supplementation. Now, a lot of folks take vitamin D. Now, with vitamin D, though, you should take vitamin K with D. Otherwise, calcium can get kind of misguided in your system, where if you're only taking D without calcium, then calcium can deposit in parts of our body that shouldn't be there. Another element that helps with vitamin D levels are magnesium. And also, if you take vitamin D with a fat-containing meal, it helps to be better absorbed into our system. Okay, but ideally getting enough sun as possible. Technology, natural support. Okay, so I find microcurrent, which is a form of electrical stimulation that is more aligned with our body's own electrical nature to help with pain, to help with brain assistance using these ear clips, and then body support sickness, where you can actually apply the electrodes to meridian acupuncture points to assist the body. And then sensory input technology. Now, there's a couple of technologies in this respect. There's brain tap, brain time. Sharon knows a bit about brain time. I've been really enamored with brain tap, and it's a form of sensory input into our nervous system that helps to bring healthy brainwave states. So it does it for us there to a degree. Now, there's other technologies, HeartMath, the HeartMath sensor, which checks our heart rate variability, which that's what HRV stands for. You know, that's for as we get to be a little bit more self-disciplined to balance our own HRV, which helps our heart rhythms, which helps extend those fields. So sometimes when we're feeling tired, to have something like brain tap or brain time, where it does the input for us, and then eventually, though, actually being able to get into a higher state of coherence, it's called, with the HeartMath sensor. So I like using both. And there's other tools too. There's something called the Vitality Swing, which is another name for it is a chi machine, where you just lie on your back, you put your ankles on this machine, it swings your legs back and forth, shuts off after 15 minutes. So when you're feeling tired, you don't feel like exercising, at least you're doing something for your lymphatic system. Then a power plate, you may have heard of power plates, where you stand and it vibrates your body, and it helps as we get older to help with bone density. So there's all kinds of tools. Those are the ones that I'm aware of. Okay, assessments. We're talking about assessments to help determine what we need in terms of supplementation. So I like looking at blood. And blood, now this is something you want to keep in mind. So when you get checked, you can say by your medical doctor, or even I can set this up for you. You know, usually a medical doctor will check something called a CBC or a CMP. A CBC is they're checking your white blood cells, your red blood cells there, but you know, that's great to have too. But usually these things are left out. So these markers, CRP is for C-reactive protein, SED rate, galactin-3. These are inflammatory markers to see how your body's doing inflammation-wise. Now, when I had that severe hip pain, my CRP, it should be less than 3 at least. Mine was 99. It was the highest the doctor ever seen. I was in extreme pain, but not until I had that CRP where I began to recognize, okay, if I get that down, after taking curcumin, it got down fairly quickly there, and which helped with the pain, but it was a marker to see. And then galactin-3. Now, this is something that we've been recently become aware of, was Dr. Ilias's work, where galactin-3 is a measure for inflammation, but also fibrosis. So as we age, inflammation can eventually, if it's chronic, can eventually lead to fibrotic tissue, especially in our heart tissue. CA markers and tissue breakdown markers, creatine kinase, and this LDH markers. So again, CA stands for cancer markers. So I usually recommend folks get checked for these markers at least once a year, because in the way the world is today, 1 out of 2 people eventually are diagnosed with cancer, and I was too at a point. So it's important to see where you are and where you may be trending, and to actually look to see how you can head it off at the pass.
What's CK and LDH?
CK is creatine kinase,
Okay.
and LDH is lactic dehydrogenase. And they're markers for tissue breakdown, Mary.
Okay.
Okay, now Cleveland Heart Lab panel. Now, a lot of folks check their cholesterol, but cholesterol is okay. But again, sometimes even with cholesterol, if it's high, it's usually not really, sometimes not real high. But the more important markers you can say for our hearts are these inflammation markers. So, as we get older in our 70s, 80s, this is a marker I really recommend folks get taken, called MPO, myeloperoxidase. It's a marker to see where you may be trending in terms of possibly having the vulnerability of having a heart attack or a stroke. So if you see that marker and you see where you're at with that, and if it's high, then you want to, take some action fairly quickly to get that number down to help prevent the onset of something like that. So that's an important marker. And a lot of these markers, again, most doctors just take CBC or comprehensive metabolic panel, where they don't check these. So these are extra things you may want to ask your doctor for. Again, these are things that I can set up. Other things to check for: your vitamin D levels. A lot of more medical doctors are doing that. Ferritin levels. Again, iron can build up in our body over time, and some people have a condition called hemochromatosis, which relates genetically to having more of a tendency for iron to build up. And if iron builds up, that can cause greater oxidation, a greater accelerated aging process. Hemoglobin A1C, again, blood sugar over time. That's important to keep an eye on. Thyroid antibodies to see if, say, toxins are affecting your body. And then estrogen levels. If estrogen start to build up, and the way the world is today, things can actually cause estrogen to build up, especially if you're drinking out of plastic bottles or having containers with food contained in plastic. That can increase the estrogen levels, which can set the stage for cancer. Okay, other things to look at: heavy metals. And the way the world is today, again, toxins, and especially heavy metals. So checking hair and urine for things like mercury, lead, aluminum, all of those things have an effect, say, on our nervous system, which can set the stage for things to happen, before time that they should. Microbiome gut testing. Now, as we get older, even younger folks, there's such a need for intestinal health. And there's a test called FX Biome. It's a stool test to see if you have enough healthy intestinal bacteria versus unhealthy, if you have pathogens related to parasites, candida, fungus, those type of things. And then aging assessment monitoring using a blood spot test. There's a test called True Age testing, which can give us an idea how fast or how slow our body is aging. And you can say the number one factor that relates to disease onset is how fast our body may be aging. And this test is relatively new, but it gives us an awareness in that respect for us individually. Brain span is a test looking at essential fatty acids, but along with cognitive health. So it looks for brain and cognitive health factors to see overall how you're doing in that respect. And then I like looking at this test, lifestyle genetic testing with longevity report from the DNA company. Now, some of us have done that there. With DNA, as soon as I mention DNA with some folks, the red flags go up. So there are concerns about DNA testing. And one of them has to do with security, where, in the past, folks who've had tests like 23andMe, their data was sold, marketed there. I feel confident with this DNA company because they assure us that their data is not sold. And for some of us, we may not want to know what our genes are doing. And that's, again, all of this is our conscious choice to make an empowered choice, whether we want to do something like this or we don't. Because if we can mute our lines, well, I'm recording this, so this would be a little bit more contained for right now. And if you want to make a comment, you're welcome to just unmute your line. Okay, so health and longevity optimization, genomic testing. So there's genes that relate to our mood and our behavior, our cardiovascular system, our immunity and detoxification ability, hormones and exercise, sleep, diet and nutrition, and then putting that together in a report. I especially like the genetic factors where it can tell actually how we're wired. You can talk about that outer sensing we were talking about before. You can say how we're wired in an outer way, but be aware of those tendencies we may have in mood and behavior. And we may already know some, but some, if we become a little more conscious of those, it can help stop us in our tracks when they do arise, when we recognize that's just a genetic tendency that I can be aware of, but don't have to buy into. Okay, so let's look at longevity report includes brain health. And a big part of brain health is our blood sugar balance, insulin resistance. Now, one thing with blood sugar, they talk about Alzheimer's being diabetes 3, that, if your blood sugar is off for a while there, and if you have a genetic tendency, that can set the stage for developing cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's. Okay, longevity report includes bone health. So in some people, our bone health deteriorates at a faster rate than normal. Genetics plays an important role in overall bone health and longevity. Our vitamin D genes control our body's relationship with vitamin D. And then the most important compound related to our bone health relates alongside with K2. So vitamin D and K2 are so important for our bone health. And this is a big thing now, that some of us diagnosed with COVID, it looks at our biodefense. So what's our biodefense? It's our body's ability to protect itself from infections, inflammation, and aging in general. Biodefense is your body's ability, our body's balance between inflammation and detoxification. Ideally, there's a minimal presence of long-term inflammation with quick and agile detoxification processes. Detoxification serves to minimize and clean up inflammation. Several genes and gene pathways influence these cellular processes. Okay, so what can I learn from this test? The goal of this test is to evaluate the roles that your genes play in the efficiency of several important biological and cellular processes in your body. Learn how well your body is performing the tasks necessary to maintain optimal health and wellness. And where there's an opportunity to make diet, lifestyle, and environmental changes that can set you up for the most optimal health outcomes. Now, a lot of folks come to me too, and they want to know what supplements to take. And sometimes they'll come in, or folks will come in taking a whole bag load of supplements. But what the genetic testing does, it helps really narrow down what your body needs genetically over your lifetime. So I find this really helpful in that respect. So, we got a little bit more detail in terms of testing there, but overall, again, summing up our conscious care for our body for now. Now, there's so much. I was talking with Carol, and Carol recognized, hey, we can talk about this, we can talk about that for sure. There's so much we can talk about, what food, a little bit more about diet, a little bit more about, stress handling there. But for now, to sum up what we've covered for the past month and for tonight is, I like to look at this. The physical body needs control. It needs direction. It needs guidance. It needs care. It needs love. When this is provided, we become a whole person in position to serve and love, to extend love, to radiate love to others. So it is, we become responsible for our own physical bodies. We know how to handle it. We know how to take care of the requirements. And that was from my friend, mentor, spiritual teacher, Martin Exeter. Okay. And just to read that again, the physical body needs control. It needs direction. It needs guidance. It needs care. It needs love. When this is provided, we become a whole person in position to serve and love, to extend love, to radiate love to others. So it is, we become responsible for our physical bodies. We know how to handle it. We know how to take care of the requirements. Okay. There's a video I like to show, and provided I can get the hang of putting it up here, that goes along with this. So just bear with me for a moment. Okay, stop my share. Okay, tell me if you can see this.
Know that resonant frequencies in the Earth's geomagnetic field, solar activity, and Schumann resonances have been shown to affect the
You guys see that? See this? Just let me know.
Yes.
Great. Okay.
physiological rhythms produced by our brain, heart, and autonomic nervous system, and that synchronization can occur between the two. Now, what happens if we're intentionally focusing on radiating love? That's where things really get interesting. 104 participants around the world, in California, Lithuania, Saudi Arabia, New Zealand, and England, wore heart rate variability monitors 24 hours a day for 15 days. HRV is an important measure reflecting heart-brain interactions and autonomic nervous system dynamics. Researchers also obtained recordings of geomagnetic activity data from a calibrated network of magnetometers located in the same countries as the participant groups. The amount of synchronization between each of the participants' HRV and the resonant frequencies in the Earth's locally measured magnetic field was calculated for each of the 15 days as the participants went along their daily lives. On day 6 of the study, all of the groups participated in a 15-minute synchronized heart-focused meditation called a heart lock-in, in which participants build their capacity to sustain heartfelt feelings like appreciation, care, or compassion, and intentionally radiate those feelings to each other and the Earth. During the lock-in, researchers found that most of the participants showed significantly increased coherence in their heart rhythms. This finding was expected based on HeartMath Institute's decades of previous studies on heart coherence. However, researchers also found that the group members' heart rhythms were significantly more synchronized with each other's during the heart meditation period, across all of the groups in 5 different countries. And here's another fascinating finding. On the day the participants did the heart lock-in together, the synchronization between their heart rhythms and the Earth's magnetic fields was drastically higher than any of the other days in every single group. So just 15 minutes of radiating love increased people's synchronization with each other as well as with the rhythms of our Earth. While science is still working to uncover the full benefits of this interconnected coherence, most of us can sense intuitively that living in increased harmony with each other and nature is an important next step for the betterment of all. Did you know that resonant
Okay. Is that helpful?
Mm.
Helpful to see that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a little bit more here on my screen share. And then we'll open it up for discussion. Okay, let's have a little meditation now together, just to kind of correlate what we shared in detail, but also what we're opening up now in terms of radiating love. So again, we want to upright ourselves, hand over our hearts here. You can close your eyes if you like. Let's begin to breathe in through our heart, slow. Imagine our nose being on our heart, breathing in slow. And out slower. Breathing in slow. Out slower. And breathing in slow. And out slower. And begin to open up your awareness, our awareness, to the flow state. The flow state allows us to radiate that love and have a sensing and feeling that love radiating out now. And as we come in sync with that, we feel a greater sense of wholeness, more so than we can do individually. And as we acknowledge that our togetherness in that way, radiating love, we have a sensing of extending something that blesses, that nourishes the earth, each other, and those that we're closely in touch with in our hearts, and even beyond. And here we have a sensing, here's our reason for being, our reason for participating, for being alive here in form on earth, to extend something sound and true that is of the wisdom of love. And feel the assurance of that. Let's feel the assurance of that. And let's look to feel that and we'll look to come back consciously and look to take another step here. And we can open your eyes as you would, but to feel that feeling, being in place as we open our eyes. And let's take a moment now, individually, to consider, if you have a pen, piece of paper, or a pen or a pencil, how you will care for your body, your conscious care of your body. Let's take a moment in that respect and have some.